Welcome to the Chi Corpus podcast. The goal of this podcast is that you would know, love, and follow Jesus with your whole heart. Join us as we read through the Gospel of John and be transformed as you see Jesus for yourself.
Hello, friends. I hope you've enjoyed our journey through the book of John so far. Today, we're going to talk about the end of John chapter 5. So let's start with verse 27. It's talking about God's judgment here. And if you've ever talked with anyone about God's judgment, you'll understand and agree that many people have strong opinions on God's judgment. Why? Well, because being judged is scary for us. We understand our own hearts and we know that we don't always make the right choices or have the right attitudes, so we don't like the idea of someone judging us based on those. But I would like to encourage you to think a little deeper about God's judgment. I recently heard a phenomenal illustration about this very topic. Are you an athlete that's ever worked really hard for a game or an event? Or have you ever studied really hard for a test? In general, if you have ever worked hard to prepare for something, you'll know that part of the joy comes in the judgment of that thing. How well did I do on the race? What grade did I make on the test? Things like that. We want to be judged when we are doing what needs to be done. Same is true for our relationships with Jesus. If we have accepted Jesus into our hearts and we've allowed him to be in control of our lives, then we are citizens of heaven. If we're citizens of heaven, then we are excited and willing to follow the rules of heaven. So if that is also true, then we are following Jesus, allowing him to change us to be more like him. And a great result of making these choices is that we will be judged. With joy, we can anticipate the judgment of how we responded to the things Jesus asked of us. That is really an exciting way to look at judgment for me, and I hope you feel the same anticipation. If the idea of judgment is scary or dreadful to you, I'd like to challenge you to think about why that is. Is it because you think of God as a scary God that just wants to send you to hell and doesn't really care about you? That isn't him at all. In fact, in John chapter 3, it said quite the opposite. It said that Jesus loved you so much that he was willing to, and actually did, give his very life so that you didn't have to perish or spend eternity in hell, which is basically eternity without Jesus. Maybe you're neither of these. You're not excited about God's judgment and you're not terrified of it. Maybe you think your good deeds in life have outweighed your bad choices. In Genesis, we read about Adam and Eve having a wonderful relationship with each other and with God until sin entered, and they willingly chose to do the very thing that God told them not to do. After that, there were consequences of their actions, and they realized that they were naked. They felt shame, and the world was completely different after that. Sin is never worth the price that has to be paid for it. It cost Jesus his life, and it can cost us so much as well. I pray that each of you will spend some time in prayer today. Be honest with yourself and with God. How do you really feel about judgment? And what do you need to change or begin to do to get yourself closer to Jesus and more excited about his judgment?